Hey everyone, this is Daniel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Power Automate for Desktop with GPT that runs on Azure OpenAI Service. So what we're going to look at is how this AI, which is called as GPT, that stands for the Generative Pre-trained Transformer, how it can go ahead and make certain actions for us so much more easier than just automatically doing it for us, as against we actually going and figuring that out. And I'll walk you through a good scenario of that. So this is the video we're going to focus on. It's super exciting and very important to make your job so much more easier. But first, here's my intro video. So in the Power Automate for Desktop, a whole separate category of actions showed up called AI Builder Actions. And currently there's only one action in that category, and that is for the OpenAI Azure service. So I'm pretty sure in the future there will be more of them showing out. But right now, the create text with GPT using the Azure OpenAI service, that's the first action that is available. And that is what I'm going to cover in this video. Also, there is a Microsoft documentation available over here. It is under the Learning Power Platform section. The article first came out in March 15th of 2023. So it's been there for a while, and I'm sure that there's revisions already go on. And I'll take this link and put it in the description below. So now that I've given you a quick introduction of what this is, let's go and take a look at what Power Automate for Desktop is and start figuring out how this action works. So I'm on my Windows 11 operating system machine, and installed on that operating system is my Power Automate for Desktop. And I've done 14 other videos on this topic, deep diving in it. I'll put the links down in the description below. Go take a look at all of them at your convenience. In this one, we'll focus on specifically the GPT one. So to go ahead and build that, I'm just going to go ahead and now click on my flows. I don't have to do that, but I can just go to my flows and I'll click on new. And once I click on new, I'll actually put in the flow name called live demo to test GPT feature. I'll go and click on create. A new section or a window opens up. This is just to go and create the flow section of it. It is going ahead and getting things ready, and the whole page has filled up. Now, on the left side, you will see this new group of actions. It falls under the action, but there's this new group and it's called AI Builder. And when I go and click on the AI Builder, you'll see that there's only one action available over here. Let me go and open this up. And it says create text with GPT on Azure OpenAI Service. So that's basically what I was saying at the introduction, is that AI Builder is a new group of actions that's opened up, and currently there's only one action in it, and that's the one it is. So you know how to go and use these actions. You can either go ahead and double click on it, or you can go and click on it, do a drag and do a drop, and that's basically how you get the action started. So let's spend a few minutes taking a look at this action, because there's a lot over here to digest. The overall use of the action is very similar to any one of them. All right, you've got the section to go ahead and say add some parameters, which is what we will do over here. And then there's also the section where you can go and click on I. And I stands for the information. So if I go and it gives me a little overview of that. This section on the top gives me some info. Let's go and click on that more info. It actually takes me to a link in the browser, and this is basically what it is. It's actually giving me how to go ahead and specifically use that action, what are its parameters for the input, what type of variables are produced, and if there's any exceptions to that. This is a good link to have as well. I've put that down in the description below. So I'll just go and minimize this because we might have to refer to that. But other things are nice was that after you go ahead and do this action, it ultimately goes and saves it as two different types of variables. It is called as the predict v2 response and the predict v2 text response. So a lot of what we will be using right now is the latter one, which is the predict v2 text response. So just keep that in mind. But after this, we will now go ahead and use the instructions that are available. This is basically what I like. As myself, I was learning it and I was doing some testing. I referred to this create instructions a lot. So let's go take a look at it. So I'll click on the create instructions. I started getting a lot of vibes over here from how we do it in the Power Automate. Remember, in the Power Automate, if you go and start building a flow, it actually gives you suggestions right off the bat. And remember, this is also still Power Automate is available on the desktop over here. That way, adoption of this is so much more easier. So I want to actually go through a few scenarios over here. Okay, first of all, I want to hit some big topics too, because a very useful one right off the bat is summarize text. So I'll click on the summarize text, and now let's understand what is going on over here. So in the section which states describe the text the model should create, it's giving us a description. So in this, the description states that summarize the text below in less than 2 paragraphs without adding any information. And if the text below has less than few words or looks like, placeholder text, respond, sorry, I can't summarize, it'll basically give us some output over here. What's important is that the one section on the top, this little paragraph, is the description. You need to put your text, which the GPT is going to go ahead and reference to. The text needs to be in between the start of text and the end of text. And keep in mind, it's not necessary that you have to have that hashtag over here. It's not necessary. The key criteria is that keep it between over here. And I'll show you in the example following is how you can also go and use your variables over here. So let's have some examples, all right? So what I'm going to do first is just make sure that we've selected the right one. So I'll click on back. And so the first one I'm going to use is respond to a complaint. A very good scenario. And so I'll go ahead and now read through the description which is given, and then in between the start of text and end of text, I'm going to delete this off and I'm going to go and paste this little paragraph. Consider this as a scenario where a user, a person who's gone ahead and purchased one of your products, is sending a complaint. And now you want to go ahead and assess the complaint, analyze it, maybe even do a sentiment analysis, which I'll cover in a few seconds. And then after that, come up with an overview, not just a summary, but a full overview of how the response should be sent back. All of this is going to be used with the OpenAI. And so here's the text. It says, I wish to complain about Contoso Incorporated's super duper gadget that I purchased on June 8, 2023 at the store in the Texas Mall. I'm complaining because device is not working and I noticed the items were not wrapped, which means it was pre-used. To resolve this problem, I would like you to send me a box with return shipping label, preferably send overnight. Sincerely, Tony Stark. I know I put some jokes in over here. The super duper gadget was one of my funnier ones, and we all know who Tony Stark is, all right? But again, it's a good example. And remember, I kept it in the start of text, between the start of text, and at the bottom, there is still end of text. What I'm going to do is now click on test it out, which means right over here, while we are in the action, we have the functionality to go and test it. And so the response is great because remember, the one we selected is to go ahead and now create a response based on the actual text that we received. Now remember, this over here is completely generated by GPT, all right, the OpenAI service. So the response we read is, I apologize for the inconvenience you have experienced with the company name and the gadget. See, it automatically pulled that from the top. The Contoso Incorporated super duper gadget, it went and pulled that directly from the top. I understand that the device is not working and that the items were not wrapped. Again, it is smart enough to go ahead and take the key information from the text, because in the top, when the user was complaining, mentioned very specifically that the items were not wrapped, and it means that it might have been pre-used. So it is emphasizing the same thing in the response as well. And now it says, I will arrange a box for and now it says, I will arrange for a box with return shipping label to be sent to you overnight. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is beautiful, right? Automatically done, makes the shipping or the return shipping department's job so much more easier, right? But let's continue on a few more examples. What if for the same scenario, I go ahead and actually do a sentiment analysis of the text? Remember, we just came back from testing the respond to a complaint, but I want to do a sentiment analysis of the same text. So if I go and now select the text, again, this is the description of what the text is. I will go ahead and select it in between the start of a text. I'll go and paste it in, the same text, and I'll do a test it out. Now, after it has gone ahead and assessed it, it is going and giving me a sentiment analysis of it. And I think it is pretty spot on because as I read that text, I immediately came to the conclusion as well that it is a negative. And that's what it says. It says negative, Contoso Incorporated super duper gadget not working, even though it is a pre-used items. Spot on. I like how accurate the AI is, at least in this case. But I also do want to do one more last test of this simple kind. All right, so I'm going to go and click on back. Now I want to do a fact-checking Q&A bot. So if I click on the fact-checking Q&A bot, you notice that on the top description sections, it is always giving a description. Now, if you haven't caught on, it is very important to provide this description because this is what the GPT is referencing prior to it actually reading the text. The GPT needs this information over here, this description, to understand what it is that you want it to do. And then afterwards, provided the content of doing that. Make sense? Let me show you another example over here. So I'm going to replace this and I'm going to put in this text, which I want you to read together with me. The text says, I gave the cashier $150 in exchange for tens, and he gave me 15 bills. Is this the correct amount back? It's a legitimate logic-based question. So let's see how the fact check goes. So I'm going to go and click on test it out. And it is going and doing a test. and it's preparing to respond. And here you go. It says, yes, this is the correct amount back. So it is confirming that that is the correct amount. And I was giving an explanation. So according to the US Bureau of Engraving and Printing, a $10 bill is worth 150 when exchanged for 50. Now it does end with a little bit of confusion because I see it reads as for $15 one bills. I'm not really sure what this $1 bills. I wish it had just said for 15 bills and that would make sense to me. So there is a little margin of maybe error, not so much in the logic of the answer, but the way it presented it. But overall, I'm pretty happy because what we did was we went ahead and actually did a fact check. And then after that, we gave it some context and it did a good fact check and gave us a very good response back. So this is just the overview of how this thing works with some good sets of templates available for you to start getting used to. What I want to do is take it to the next level. First of all, we're going to leverage this start from blank because that's what it is. It is a full start from blank. But it gives you some example. It says that you've got to give the example summary or the bullet points or something to emphasize it right over here. And then after that, go ahead and put in this format. So what I did was I took one of my existing scenarios and leveraged this completely customization step and come up with a solution. I was very pleasantly surprised at how accurately it worked. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, so here are my real world example demos that I've done side by side. The one on the left, well, that is a Power Automate desktop flow that I did for a real world POC, and that was without the GPT functionality. But on the right does have the GPT functionality, all right? And they look very similar, but what I was pleasantly surprised is how easy using the GPT functionality with the OpenAI made the extraction of the data that I needed. So first, let me explain to you what this is all about. So I'll just go ahead and expand this section over here, the left one. So this is a real world example where a company, and let's just call them Contoso.com, they do a heavy shipping, they do a lot of shipping during the holiday season. By holiday season, I'm talking about Thanksgiving, Christmas time, you know, the November, December years, a lot of shipping. And one of the things that the administrators have to do is keep track of all these UPS tracking by actually taking the tracking numbers, going to the UPS website, manually putting the number over there, extracting the data, and updating the spreadsheet. This is all manually done. So we automated the whole thing using the Power Automate for desktop. And that's basically all it is. For the sake of this demo, I've put a lot of display messages. So you will actually see pop-ups coming, displaying a message, giving you an update of the what next action is. That's all it is. In the real world, you can just go ahead and hide that. But the important thing is launch the Excel spreadsheet, which has the tracking numbers. Then go ahead and start grabbing the information from the table, which is over there, setting up some variables, going and making sure you have a count. Then you start a loop functionality. The loop functionality actually has a child flow that runs in. What it does is first it goes ahead and again extracts the or reads the first tracking number. Then it goes ahead and runs that through the child flow. The child flow will basically launch a browser, which is the website of the UPS tracking number, populate some fields, extract some fields, close the browser. That's what it does, finishes that off. And then after the end, it'll go ahead and write that to the Excel spreadsheet, make sure that the columns are filled. So let me show you what that spreadsheet looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. There you go, drag and pull it over here. And this is just what the spreadsheet looks like. It's got 3 simple columns, tracking numbers, status, date and time, and in this case, 2 simple rows. And these are legitimate UPS tracking numbers, all right? So that's basically what the spreadsheet is. Pretty simple, but this is the start of the actual process that we are automating. So once those open up, it takes the data, it takes the tracking numbers from that spreadsheet, and then goes ahead and gets all that information from the UPS one. So this is the first scenario of how this works. Let's go and run this so you can at least see what all it is doing. All right, so I'm going to go and click on run, and then I'm going to raise my hands over here to prove to you that this is all getting automated. Step number 1 basically is just that display message. So that's all it is. Now it has gone ahead and launched an Excel spreadsheet. You don't see it, but the spreadsheet is actually opened up in the bottom, giving me some more display messages, which is just fine. Now we're going to go ahead and read from that Excel spreadsheet very soon. So we are right now getting inside the loop. It goes ahead and launches the browser. Again, my hands are up. You're seeing this do all by itself. Pasted it in the tracking number. This one was completely delivered, this first tracking. So it scrapped that information, presented it over here, and then pasted that in the Excel spreadsheet. The second tracking number, it goes ahead and now pastes that in manually. Again, my hands are up. It goes ahead and now this one is different because it is still in the process of being delivered, but it extracted that information successfully. And then now it's going to go ahead and write that into the Excel spreadsheet, and everything is done successfully. In fact, on the bottom left, you can see that you've got the green check and it says that the status is ready, which means it ran successfully. But success to you and me is opening up that Excel spreadsheet. So let's go open up that spreadsheet again. It's opened up and there you go. Now you see these other two columns in the two rows have been populated. For the first one, it was delivered. But for the second one, it's giving me an estimated because it's still going to be delivered today. And so therefore, it did a solid, good, accurate extraction, and it updated the columns exactly the way that I wanted to. Now, let me just quickly show you just to do this section, the taking of the data, scrapping it, and just extracting the data. That was a little bit of a challenge. So what I'm going to do first is actually wipe this off because we're going to do this one more time. So I'll save it, I'll close it, and quickly take a look at a few of these actions. So when the data is extracted, it goes ahead and saves that into an output data. So that's why it is doing this output data saving technique, all right? But if you can open up this output data, you will actually see that the output data is being saved as a table. Just to confirm that, you can see on the right under the flow variables, output data is actually saved as 1 row, 2 columns. So a whole separate variable type has to be pre-planned and how much data that is going to come in. In our case, it is coming in as a table type. Now, just to display the message, right? Just to even display the message, I have to actually tell it which cell of that table needs to be presented. So therefore, it is the text 0, which is the first cell. Then there is the output data 0, 1. That is the first cell. That is the first row, the cell on the right, the second cell. Like, you got to think at that level, which sometimes you can get a little cross-eyed when you start thinking of it that way because it's a lot of thinking. I had to open up another Excel spreadsheet to figure this out, but I needed to do all of that to put this over here. And so it successfully worked, but do I need to go through all of this complex process, or could GPT have done that for me? And yes, it can. So I'm going to now switch gears and show you the second flow that I have. Here you go. I'm going to go ahead and now take the first one, minimize it. The second one, I'll go and open it. Now, it looks exactly the same if you look at it from the entire flow standpoint, but the change happened inside the loop feature. So check this out, all right? The initial split text, which I kept it over here just so you can see it. This split text was there in the first flow we just saw, but now I don't need it. So that's why I've gone ahead and disabled it. What I am using is when I go ahead and now extract the data, I go ahead and use this functionality. So check this out. Now this is us manually going ahead and using it. So immediately on the top, the description that I gave was something that I write in. Very simple. I say extract delivery status and date. Very simple end user words, plain English. That's all I do. And now I went ahead and get the output data. The output data is the extraction that it did from that UPS website. Now this, I don't have to put it in a table format or anything like that. It just runs. And I'll prove that to you in a second also, is that this variable is not in a table format. But now that I went ahead and extracted this, based on what I asked, now it's the extract delivery status and date from the output data, that is saved in these two variables. And the one that we're going to leverage is the predict v2 text response. So that data is what is now displayed directly over here. See the predict v2 text response? That is what is displayed. And then that is actually what is saved directly over here. In the Excel spreadsheet, we're saving it. And here in the Excel spreadsheet, I have to be very accurate. It says on a specified cell, the column number B, row, there I have to be accurate. Next, we go ahead and now run another action. And over there, I'm saying extract only the delivery date. Still giving it the same output, but now that is actually saved into another variable. This is the predict v2 delivery. And so that delivery is now gone and saved into the Excel spreadsheet. It is actually put in column number C, because remember the first one we just looked at was column number B. So you have to know at least a little bit of that. But no longer did I have to go ahead and now figure out which it is. Is it 0? Is it 1? All of this complicated process over here. I don't have to figure any of that out anymore. So did this work? Let's go test it. All right, so I'm going to now click on run. The messages come up, the display messages, I left that as is. So I'm going to click on OK. By the way, my hands are up just so that you know. Another display messages come up. So that's also OK. Next, it starts through the reading of the Excel spreadsheets, getting the count of the actual rows and columns. Message comes up again, another message to say it is going to go and start with the loop. In the loop, now this part you're familiar with. It goes ahead and gets the first tracking number. This one, the item is still being, this one, the item is actually delivered, extracts that, and gives me delivery status is delivered, right? This message is a little different. Second, now it's going and grabbing the second message, the second tracking number. A hint on this tracking number, it is still in the process of being shipped. So the data is a lot longer, but the scrapping worked successfully, all right? Went through the chat GPT and went and extracted, give us delivery status is estimated delivery. And now it is going ahead and saving into the Excel spreadsheet. Flow completed successfully. As you can see, I've got a great check. But check this out, the output data is automatically coming in as a table. But you and I know the ultimate success is take a look at that spreadsheet. Here you go. I'm going to go ahead and open up the spreadsheet. It is opening, and there you go. See, this is all happening with the GPT. Now in the status column, it is telling me, hey, it has been delivered, and gives me the example of the delivery day with, exact date and time. In this case, the estimated delivery status is this date and time, and it also goes and adds that date and time. GPT did all of this using the AI system. I did not have to tell it exactly what cell, what number. No, it extracted that automatically, put that into the variables, and then we went ahead and updated the Excel spreadsheet. This is pretty awesome. So what do you think? I mean, the GPT functionality that leverages Azure OpenAI Service now as action in Power Automate for desktop is pretty awesome. And besides the first examples that I showed, which was kind of just playing around, testing how it analyzed the text, both from a sentiment standpoint or doing an extraction. I mean, that was all good examples, but leveraging it in a real world Power Automate desktop flow, and not just real world, but taking an existing one and just tweaking it to make it so much more easier, but getting more powerful results. That was a really good example. And that is actually what got me excited, because I was able to go ahead and leverage it real time and just take existing flows, which I didn't have to tweak a whole lot. I just tweaked a few actions, but instead of putting in all of that work to figure out cell level in each of the Excel spreadsheets from the output, all I did was just tell GPT, you figure that out, just give me this data. And that's exactly what I did. I was pretty impressed with it. I hope this got you excited as well. And as always, start using Power Automate for desktop to come up with your own automation processes. Hello. So if you like this video, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and smash that like button. Also, if you have a few extra seconds, can you go ahead and put in a comment? Either say something nice or give me ideas for my next video. And until then, see ya.